So, psychological horrors. One of the most interesting, confusing, and downright horrific genres in history. But while this genre houses some of the most critically acclaimed movies ever, such as Silence of the Lambs, The Shining, and even Psycho, which one do I consider to be the best? After the train wreck that was Alien 3, David Fincher denounced the film industry, stating he would throw up if he ever had to film another movie again. This is all until about 3 years later when he started working on a new project. David Fincher's Seven, released in 1995, was one of the most successful psychological horrors in cinema history, starring Morgan Freeman as the retiring detective who's slowly giving up on humanity, and Brad Pitt as the hot new rookie looking to take his place. The movie scored a staggering rating of 8.6 on IMDb, also grossing $14 million in the opening weekend in the box office, beating out the previous major psychological horror, Silence of the Lambs, by almost $3 million. John Doe. The execution of the villain in this movie is almost flawless to me. How do you write a character who believes he's superior to everyone else, but slowly recognizes his own humanity? The first 2 acts of the movie, John Doe is almost like a phantom who kills for each 7 deadly sin: gluttony, greed, sloth, lust, pride, envy, and wrath. He is perceived as this relentless invisible force with no screen time or voice. He has influences almost everywhere, as if he's some kind of higher being unperceivable to everyone else. But when the detectives use some not very legal methods to work out who he is, there finally becomes a person to fit this mold. At this point in the movie, John Doe loses for the first time. Having to abandon his home and his writings, he begins to generate an obsession with Mills, and he quickly becomes jealous of his perfect life. Doe's hatred for humanity begins to eat at him as his own envy for Mills grows and grows, and he begins to resemble more and more the humans that disgust him. This self-development impacts him enough to change his plan to kill for every 7 deadly sin, and turns himself in. This move ultimately seals his fate, and he becomes a guinea pig to his own horrific ideology. At the end of the film, he delivers Detective Mills' wife's head to him, and completes the last 2 sins in one. Mills shooting him in a fit of wrath, and Doe falling victim to his own human nature as envy, taking Doe from this almost supernatural entity dishing out divine punishment, to a flawed human experiencing an uncontrollable emotion. Seven's greatest strength for me is the lighting effects. The genius of the film cinematographer Darius Khondji is really magnified through this movie. Darius took a big risk, delving into extending the shadows and almost embracing the darkness. He used a Panavision Promo spherical lens, which is known for its high contrast, almost extending the shadows effects on the screen. Darius also confined the color palette of the lighting to a desaturated array of colors, using gloomy light blues and sickly greens to display an almost chilling coldness to the outside and the streets. He used these harsh lightings masterfully, keeping a separate color palette for both inside the homes and the outside, confining the interior of the building almost strictly to a warmer orange, which creates these really safe personalities to his indoor scenes, while the outside is a desaturated blue that almost makes you feel physically colder. The contrast Darius creates with these somewhat simple colours, changing the entire feel of the scene by simply using a different colour, was critical to the movie's dark and horrific persona. Darius uses colour for more than just creating scenic emotions. Each sin has its own colour scheme, cleverly implemented to boost the impact of each death. My personal favourite use of this is for Pride. Darius almost completely abandons the film's dark and desaturated colours for a bright, almost blinding white. This dazzling white has its own personality, reflecting the lack of depth and being self-centered. Seven utilised colour in a way few other movies had ever done before it. It stretched the boundaries of how much emotion can be created by simply using a light. And that's why I believe Seven to be a movie worthy of being in the Hall of Fame.